Goeiemôre almal, en veral weer eens die seuns en die dogters van die Hoërskool Hermanus. Dis vandag die 14de April, en net weer 'n geleentheid vir my om met julle weer eens op te vang, en net op datum te hou in terme van waar ons is. Daar's nog 'n week wat voor lê, in terme van die inperking, en natuurlik bietjie nuus wat ons gekry het, donderdag aand van die president. Ek dink eerstens, ek hoop julle het 'n baie geseënde Paasnaweek gehad. Ek dink dit was, of ek hoop het was, 'n spesiale tyd vir julle en julle families saam. Ek dink dit is anders as enige Paasnaweek wat ons verlede gehad het rondom die inperking, en ek hoop regtig dit was 'n geseënde tyd vir julle saam met julle families. Oor die naweek ook, of net voor die Paasnaweek, het ons die aankondiging gekry van die president dat die inperking gaan verleng word tot die einde April. Well, I don't think it was a surprise to many of us, or to any of us. I don't think any of us were still not shocked by the announcement. I certainly, while maybe expecting it, was still unsettled by the announcement, and if I look at the reaction in my own home, I know that there were many people who felt the same way. So unfortunately, as we know, we have another 2 weeks of lockdown, and the lockdown has been extended until the end of April. So the big question would be then, as a school, where does that leave us? Well, I think in terms of the planning that we've been doing, not much changes. Soos julle weet, in terme van die beplanning wat ons gedoen het, die inperking sou geëindig eintlik einde van hierdie week. Ons het gehoop om skool toe te gaan van volgende week af. Ons het altyd gesê, ons wil ons beplanning doen vir die ergste scenario wat kan uitloop. So in terms of the distance learning that we started to roll out during the course of the last week, we were planning for the worst case scenario. And what will happen going forward is we will keep things much the same until the end of April, and until we hear whatever news the president has to say in terms of the lockdown after that. Ek dink dit is 'n tyd vir ons almal, want ons almal ontsteld is. Ons het gehoop, ons het gebid dat ons kan terug skool toe gaan, dat die lewe in die land kan weer soos normaal teruggaan, maar ongelukkig is dit nie so nie. En ek dink ons sien almal die groot prentjie, en ek dink ons verstaan hoekom die besluit gemaak was. But it certainly doesn't allow any of us necessarily to feel any easier. From my side, for you the pupils, what I want to tell you to do is to relax and just continue as per normal. We got the distance learning into place, and that was to cater for the fact that we weren't able to go back to school. And that is going to be the case, as I've mentioned now, until the end of April. Ek dink op die einde van die dag, ons as mens, ons moet probeer beheer hou oor dinge waar ons kan beheer hou. We need to control the things that we have control over. And unfortunately, in terms of the lockdown, you and I don't have control over that. We need to abide by it, we need to work with it, we need to make a difference as far as we can, but we don't have control over it. What you do have control over is the next 3 weeks during the time that you've got at home. And what I'm going to do is ask you, what I've asked you to do for the last 2 weeks while we've been involved in the lockdown, is to use that time productively. I think in particular, the matrics would be quite worried about where we are. Possibly you're worried about where we are. What I can tell you is over the course of the weekend, I obviously get communication from the education department, and they're very much in the process of formulating a catch-up plan or a recovery plan, whatever they want to call it. I've been quite impressed with the bits and pieces that I've seen, although it's difficult for them to finalize that plan until the final arrangements with the lockdown are put into place. We're not 100% sure when the lockdown will end. We know it's planned for the end of April, but we need to wait to see exactly what will happen. En net na dit kan die onderwysdepartement daai plan in plek sit. Wat ek kan wel vir julle sê vir al die matrieks, hulle doen alles wat hulle kan, en ek is nogal beïndruk met die planne wat ek sien, in terme van die planne wat hulle moet vir julle maak om vorentoe te gaan. Hulle gaan al die moeite maak wat hulle kan, om seker te maak dat julle skryf julle eksamen einde van die jaar, en julle kan rustig voel op hierdie stadium daar rondom dit. My advice to you, and it's the advice that I've got to all the grades, let's use the time that we've got, the next 3 weeks, in terms of the lockdown, continue to use it productively. Onthou wat ons gesê het in die begin, daar was 2 redes hoekom ons met die afstandsonderrig voortgaan. Dit is nommer 1, om julle besig te hou en gemotiveerd te hou en julle te stimuleer in terme van julle akademie en waar ons kan maar voortgaan met werk as ons moet. So bly hard aan die werk en maak seker dat jy gebruik hierdie tyd as 'n produktiewe tyd. At the start of the lockdown, my advice to you was to use the time as a time out, to reflect, to reassess, to re-energize. I think considering that we've got 3 more weeks of lockdown in front of us, we need to make a shift from a time out to a time in. A time out is a case for reflection, but you can only time out for so long. Once you've had that reflection, you need to create goals, you need to create direction for yourself. If you remain in a time out period for too long, it becomes a comfort period, and a comfort period is not healthy for anyone. So I would make the shift to a time in period. Within that time in period, make sure that you know what your goals are, make sure that you've got some direction, and make sure that you are productive. In this period for the next 3 weeks, despite the fact that it is a time in period, as I see it, and a time in period is a period with purpose. Within that time in period, don't forget to continue to stick to your routine, but ensure that there is balance in that routine. It's important to continue to work when you have to work. It's important to relax when you can relax. It's important to work on that new skill that you've been working on. It's important to work on your fitness program. It's important to keep a balance and a routine to make sure that your time does remain productive. Alles wat ek hier genoem het, net in terme van die inperking, in terme van die tyd wat voorlê, ek het in 'n brief gesit wat ons gaan uitstuur vir julle ouers vandag. Wat ek ook in daai brief gesê het, is ons wag op hierdie stadium om van die departement te hoor. Ons moet wag om hulle reëlings te kry in terme van wat is hulle plan vorentoe, wat is die idee in terme van wanneer ons skool toe terugkom en so voort. En sodra ons daai inligting kry, gaan ons dit saam met julle deel. Wat ek kan met julle deel op hierdie stadium, is dat die bestuurspan van die skool, ons kom by mekaar 2 keer 'n week, elke Dinsdag en elke Vrydagoggend, waar ons hersien die verloop van die week wat agter ons was, hoe het dit gegaan, is daar aanpassings wat ons moet maak, waar kan ons dinge verbeter. Ons gaan weer eens by mekaar kom vanoggend, 9 uur, en waar ons moet die afstandsleer aanpas, ons sal so maak en ons sal daai inligting met julle uitstuur of na julle ouers uittoestuur. And as soon as we have information from the education department, we'll obviously bring that into those management meetings as well, and we will do our planning accordingly. So at the moment, as I said at the beginning, we are controlling what we can control. We're going to make it productive. We're certainly going to make it worthwhile. And as soon as we have any information from the department, we'll adjust those plans and we will let you know. So sterkte met die week wat voorlê. Ek sal weer eens volgende maandag kommunikeer met jou as daar enige belangrike inligting is wat deurkom deur die loop van die week. Ek sal en ek kan dit weer met julle kommunikeer. Ek sal dit deurstuur na julle ouers toe in vorm van 'n brief. So sterkte met die week wat voorlê. In terms of the weekend that's just gone past, I mentioned that it was the Easter weekend, and I hope it was really a fulfilling weekend for you. I know for me and for my family, it was an Easter weekend maybe like we haven't experienced in the past. I think everything was a little bit more slower, and we could focus on the importance of the weekend itself. I had the privilege of being at home, of attending a couple of services, which we could do remotely, and there were a couple of strong messages that came through. And one of those messages was a message of hope. If you think of the Easter story and you think of the chaos that was happening before Jesus was crucified, from when he arrived in Jerusalem to his time in Jerusalem with the Pharisees, with his disciples, with the community, it was chaos. And out of that chaos, there was a lot of heart sore, but out of that heart sore, there was a lot of hope. And for me, the message that I took from the weekend is that despite the difficult times we find ourselves in, there's a lot of hope that lies ahead. Een van die skriflesings wat een van die dominees gebruik het in een van die dienste wat ons bygewoon het, het uit Markus 4 gekom. Markus 4 vers 35 tot 41. Ek gaan nie die skriflees met julle nou deel, maar in terme van julle Bybelstudie wat julle hopelik doen by die huis op die oomblik, miskien is dit 'n vers wat jy of 'n stuk wat jy wil gaan lees, en dit het vir my baie betekenis gehad onder die omstandighede, en ek glo dit kan ook vir julle baie beteken. I'll leave you with one last reading It also came through in one of the services during the course of the weekend, and it also had a lot of meaning to me, and I think it summarizes where we are at the moment, and it summarizes the way forward. The reading comes from Romans 12, verse 12, and it reads as follows: Be joyful in hope, be patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. And I believe if we stand by those 3 pieces of advice, we know that we're going to get through this together. Sterkte met die week wat voor lê, alles van die beste, en ek sal weer met julle kommunikeer wanneer ek moet. Baie dankie.